Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be doing a movie review on The Karate Kid. But not only myself, I have a guest. The man, the myth, the legend, the All Valley.
What's up? Thank you so much for having me, man.
Not a problem, dude. So, what we're going to be doing is going into depth and discussing The Karate Kid. What we do here is we go on, we watch the movie, we come and then do the review. Because so many people, when it comes to these sort of things, they forget to actually watch the movie first. And when you do that, you forget very important key parts. So, going forward, let's dive into the movie. So, when the movie opens, one of the things that I really liked about the opening of the scene is that it was so basic and so 70s. I loved it. Because for me, specifically, at least, it's one of these things where so many people nowadays, when it comes to the opening of the movie, it needs to be grand, it has to be scheme. On this, it's legit just Daniel driving in the car with his mom, having arguments, and slowly getting to Reseda. And for me, it shows a cool dynamic between him and his mother straight away, from them arguing in the car about music, and then you get a little backstory on them, and you get to see them moving into this new apartment. All Valley, what about yourself?
I thought the opening of the movie was really good. I think that with, like you said, like it wasn't grand. It was simple, and that's one thing I really like. And although like the grand scheme and the grand everything was good, it's cool to see. But like sometimes a little simple opening of Daniel and his mom driving around from Newark to L.A. I thought it was cool. From Newark to from Newark to California.
Yeah.
Just hearing like the dialogue and the on the background, like Daniel complaining, like I don't want to move and stuff like that. Like I like that personally. I
Yeah.
think it like opens up like the family dynamic in the film
Yeah.
that happens, but it also like introduces the characters well. Like this is Daniel LaRusso, this is our protagonist, this is his mom, and then we see like later on and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I agree with that. And because for me, when it comes to movies, especially nowadays, when they make it so far fetched of an opener, yes, sometimes like, things like Scream and stuff, of course, it's good to have a far fetched open. But sometimes I think some people lose the actual elements of the characters connecting or like showing the relationship between the characters. And that's what I think this movie done really well in the opening. So going forward, we go from there to seeing Daniel starting to get like ready to start his new life. And as we all know, he meets the lovely Ali on the beach whilst he was playing football with or soccer for the American viewers out there. On the beach, he was playing with a bunch of friends. They accidentally kick the ball over into their direction. And then he goes over to get the ball back, but then he's so dumbfounded at the girl that's sitting on the beach in a bikini. Of course, because that's every teenage guy ever, so it makes a lot of sense. And then obviously, then he finally gets the ball back, and then they have the little romantic stare back and forth with one another, and it's quite funny because it's old school romantic, and I like it because it's so cheesy, it's so great, and also it's one of those things that it can already establish, like, who is that girl? What about you, All Valley? What did you think about that?
With Daniel meeting Ali, I thought that was again a great introduction, not just to like Ali, but like a great introduction in general to like the scene and everything. Like Daniel hanging out with his friends with like and like seeing like Ali for the first time. Like we get to see, okay, this is Ali. This is who the love interest is. This is who she is, and I really really liked it a lot.
Yeah.
I really like the soccer thing. Like thought it was like clever in a way. I like that a lot.
Yeah. So then going forward, we see Daniel and Ali again. Daniel's still playing football on the beach in pitch blackness, which, if you think about it logically, is cool, but like from our soccer on the field, which I also find funny. When the street lights go off, that's normally when people who are playing soccer go home. So, other than the wee joke there, it's still cool. So obviously then they do the accidental kick because his friend, not really sure his name because like he's just like a one-off character that like disappears after the scenes.
Freddie.
Yeah, Freddie, that's it. He's like, oh yeah, I think she's into you, man. Yeah, and he's like, yeah, watch this then, and he's trying to show that he, as we say today, riz her up. So they accidentally kick the ball over again. So Daniel goes over, and then they start all playing football together. And I just thought it was quite fun. What about you? Was there a certain part of that scene that you liked yourself?
I thought that was smooth, to be honest with you. I thought that was smooth, just like kicking the ball. Oh, sorry, like for bothering you, like he says, like, oh no, and then like she impresses him with her soccer skills, and I thought that was like, okay, like that we learn more about Allie. It's like, okay, she's not just the girl that Daniel has a crush on. Okay, she's an athlete.
Yeah.
Like she plays soccer. We know more about her. I mean, see how good she is in soccer and all that stuff. So,
Yeah, she's
football
not
for
just
UK
the
people.
casual, like, oh, she's the pretty girl type. She's actually funny. She's got a personality. She's very kind. You know, you can see that from the get go because she's going back and forth with Daniel. You know, she's doing a bit of flirty banter. And, you know, it's a really good dynamic. So then moving from there, you know, we see Johnny coming in with this biker gang. It's time to deal with these douche canoes because he's like, I see my ex with some guy that I don't know. So I'm going to go and be the alpha male. But, you know, if you've seen Andrew Tate, you know where he ended up by being an alpha male. So there you go. Just saying. Yeah, don't come for me. But, you know. So the one thing that I like about this scene specifically is that obviously Johnny comes in, he's like, oh, I just want to talk to you, man. I just want to talk to you. In Johnny's defense, he wasn't being aggressive off the bat. It wasn't until she was like, no, and she kept playing the radio. Yeah, he shouldn't have broke her radio, but I understand why he was getting annoyed. So looking at it from now having Cobra Kai, actually is quite funny looking at Johnny's perspective as well, watching the movie. This, like, when you're watching it again, you can actually see where he's coming from, which is actually a good thing what Cobra Kai did. So what about you all, Valley? What were your opinions on the whole Johnny first meeting Daniel?
So again, like you mentioned with Cobra Kai, it's just like you watch this movie differently now, especially with Johnny, because now everybody loves Johnny now. But like when this movie first came out, everybody hates him. Everybody hated Johnny. They're on Daniel's side 100%. But then like now you look at it differently, and I remember the scene in season 1 where Johnny is talking to Miguel about it. He's like, oh, like I was just trying to talk to her on the beaches, but then LaRusso kept butting in, and it's just like in Johnny's perspective, yeah, like Daniel just came out of nowhere. But I also see from Daniel's perspective, like Johnny was kind of like bothering Allie in a way.
Yeah.
And like Daniel comes in to like protect Allie. So like you see both sides.
Yeah.
And that's what the show Cobra Kai is about. But like for the Karate Kid movie, I honestly liked it a lot because again, we see who Johnny is. We know what the type of guy he is. And I like this introduction was just perfect. Like him with his gang on the motorcycles. And it's just like, he's like 8 a.m. tomorrow, I'm a senior. 1 year to make it work. And that's what I'm gonna do. Make it work. Like that scene was perfect. I loved it.
Yeah, see, I agree with that because the thing about this scene is so integral to the story as well. Because like when you look at it from like both perspectives, especially now, which makes it so even better, is that you can see, yeah, Johnny is technically bothering her, but he's not meaning to bother her. He's just trying to have a conversation, and she's just not having it. So it makes you look at Ali a bit different. Like maybe to save a lot of hassle, maybe she should have just had a conversation with him instead of being like, no, get away from me, get away from me. But you know, teenagers are gonna be teenagers. So then obviously it comes to the first encounter, Johnny versus Daniel. You know, Daniel's like, yo, leave him alone, leave her alone, man. And then, you know, they start fighting. And then obviously, sadly, Daniel gets his ass whooped. Fine and well. And obviously, all of his friends are like, oh, where did you get this guy, man? And you're like, they're their type. They're those types of friends. Funnily enough, none of them jumped in to fight with them. So I don't understand why the hell they have a fucking right to judge anyone. Sorry,
That's
just putting
true.
that out there. Also, another thing that I liked about the scene as well is that it shows you how caring Ali is, because even though everybody else is leaving, her friends are asking her to leave, she still wants to stay. Where a lot of the time, after a girl sees a guy get a beat down, they usually leave. So it speaks true to her character of what we see going forward. So that's what I really liked about that scene as well. What about you?
I agree, because like in a bunch of movies with like if the guy is like not athletic, or if the guy's not like the captain of the sports team or whatever, like, or like if he's not like muscular, like, oh, like the girl leaves. But with this one, Daniel gets his butt whooped by Johnny, and then you just see him struggling, and then everybody leaves. And like you said, every single person leaves. And then who stays? Allie, the girl he has a crush on. Make sure she's okay, which tells a lot about her as a character, that she's caring. It tells her a lot that she likes Daniel just for him and everything. So that I like that scene. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, nah, see, I'm the same. So then going from this, you know, as he goes home, and then he obviously transitions to morning, and then, You know, this is the iconic, what I wear in every video, sunglasses scene. So obviously he comes out and his mum's like, yo, why you got the sunshades on? Take them off. And he's like, nah, ma, I'm not hungry for breakfast. I'm just going to go. I'm not taking these sunglasses off. No, it's fine. It's fine and fine. And obviously he finally takes it off and she's like, oh my God, what has happened? And he's like, it's fine, mum. I just had a bike accident. I hit a curb with my tire on my bike and I went on my face. And so obviously his mother buys this, but obviously you've got to remember a mother's not obviously going to believe their child. At that moment, if he had come clean, I don't think the story would have went the way it ended up going. And that's why I think it was integral to the story. Because a lot of people would look at that and go, well, he's an idiot. Why did he not just tell his mother? Well, if he just told his mother, it wouldn't give Mr. Miyagi the right to then come in later on and help him with this without having to necessarily tell his mum what's truly going on until he really has to. And I thought that was a quite good way to show their dynamic, where he's like, Mom, I'm just trying to get to school. Can you just leave me there now? And we can talk about it later. So what about you? What are your sort of thoughts around this also scene?
Well, Daniel making up that story, I think that's like a normal teenage thing to do. You don't want to know what's going on. They don't want, like, stuff like that. That's like a normal teenage thing to do. I thought that scene was quite funny where Daniel's mom was like, are you on something? And he's hiding the sunglasses. I thought that was funny. It's like, yeah, I'm on Minute Maid. And like, so like, that's like a normal teenage thing to do, when you don't want to know, like, oh, you got a beating. You don't want to know. You don't want like your parents to know or something like that. Like, so I liked it. I think that was perfect. I think that was perfect. I think everything about this was just like it's a normal thing for a teenager to do. Like, you don't want to, because then like, you said, Miyagi wouldn't come later on if Daniel came clean already. Like a lot of stuff this whole movie would have happened. This movie would be done in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
If Daniel like came clean.
Yeah, very true. So then going on from that scene, we get to his first day of school. So he's walking into a new school. He's like, ah, crap, Johnny's here. And then it says it's like tolerance school or whatever. It's like a big long thing. And it says tolerance, which is ironic because, Daniel gets bullied in school a lot. And it seems like they would have a no tolerance policy, but instead they have a quality tolerance policy of just letting kids getting beat up. So, it is what it is. Just go over that. So then, he then obviously bumps into Ali, if I remember correctly, at the soccer field. Yep.
He does his friends first, and then his friends leave, and then Ali comes.
Yeah. Well, technically friends. Like, they still were judging him at that point. Yeah, so... Yeah. He's on the soccer field, he's doing his cool tricks, because surprisingly, Ralph Macchio was actually really good at soccer. Like, to be able to do the skills he was doing, it does take a lot of practice and, like, talent to actually be able to pull it off. So, perks to him for that. So then Ali walks up, they have their nice, flirty, back and forth banter. She's like, I'm sorry for the way they were treating you, like, this is setting the fundamentals of the relationship now, which I really like. So, it's with them talking about this conversation, talking about what happened, and then obviously she shows him off our new football skills, and he's like, our soccer skills as well, and he's like, you've been learning, and it's really a nice back and forth. And then Johnny and the boys see what's going down, and then he nods to Bobby, and Bobby's like, so then we know what's going to happen next, because it's for soccer. They do a bad tackle, and for some strange reason, this was the first time you see Daniel actually throw a punch and land it, because he gets up, spears him, and then punches him in the face, and gets away with it. But the one thing that doesn't make sense in that regard is that at the beginning he couldn't fight, and then all of a sudden, like, he could fight somewhat, he could like land a hit, but that one he actually got a full-on blow, and I was like, I forgot about that. But it's still good to the story because it shows that. And then obviously Daniel goes on is, I hate this skill. I hate everybody. Yeah, the typical whiny teenager behavior after something like that goes down. So what about yourself?
The friend scene, that just makes me think that Daniel needs to like ditch them. That's one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The Ali, when Ali comes in, I really like, again, the flirtatious thing. Again, like it's like a young love high school thing that's going on between those two, and I really like it a lot. Mm-hmm. And with the Cobras, with Johnny, to be honest, Daniel does start a little bit. He does start it, that fight, kind of. Like a little trip is nothing, but like Daniel falls on, tackles this guy. I think it was Tommy or Bobby, one of them.
Yeah.
And just sucker punches them.
Yeah.
To the face. I'm like, okay, so technically Daniel kind of started that in a way. Yeah. Like a little trip is nothing, but like what Daniel did was like a full on attack.
Yeah, see, like, it's the way you view it. Like, because he knew the true intent of why he did it, I understand why he lashed out. Doesn't necessarily mean you should have lashed out, but I understand why he did. And then going from there, he's sitting training in the kitchen, in the living room area because it's a small apartment, and he's doing the karate kicks. 1, 2, 10,000. The stereotypical thing. And Mr. Miyagi is like, "Hello, mate. I'm here to fix your sink." To be fair, if you think about it, it's sort of like if it was in another context, it could be set up for another type of dodgy movie. But since it's Karate Kid, it's completely different. So he is actually coming to fix the plumbing. So then, obviously, he notices, he's like, "Oh, you do karate?" And he's like, "Yeah, I've been doing it for a wee bit before I left where I was." So it gives him a wee bit of background of why he was able to at least land some hits. But obviously, as well as that, Mr. Miyagi's interested because he's like, "So how did you get the black eye?" And he's like, "Oh, I fell off my bike." And he's like, and the thing that I love about Mr. Miyagi in this scene is that he goes, "But no mark on your hand." And Daniel looks at him like, "Ah, shit, he knows." And I'm like, "Yeah, Mr. Miyagi, yeah, tell him." So how about yourself, man?
Again, love that because again, I think we got introduction to Miyagi before because in the very beginning of the movie, once Daniel moves, we see Miyagi and we see him like catching the fly with the headband and everything. Like, "Oh, can you fix the faucet?" And when he comes to actually fix the faucet later on, it's just like, "Oh, you learned it from a book." Like we're getting like nods like, "Oh, this kid wants to learn karate." Like that's like and Miyagi said, "Okay," and it's like, "How did you hurt your eye?" And it's just, "Oh, I fell off my bike." It's like, "In your hands?" And then like you said, it's just like Daniel just like it's like, "Oh crap!" Like, oh my gosh. I think that was perfect because it sets up why Miyagi helps Daniel in the first place because Miyagi already knows what's going on with Daniel. So it already sets everything up on why he's helping Daniel. It's not because it's not because Daniel came to him. It's not because Daniel did all this stuff. It's because Miyagi knows that Daniel needed help, which is very similar to what Robbie is in Cobra Kai.
Yes.
Where although Robbie was never bullied, Daniel knows Robbie needs help in life in general. So I love the homage that it did for Cobra Kai.
Well, actually,
that too.
I've just remembered Robbie did get bullied by his so-called friends, funnily enough, as well.
That too. Never mind.
Because they were trying to make him steal from LaRusso Auto, and when he refused to, they tried to kick his ass.
And then how did Robbie defend himself? With Daniel's techniques. And that's what I really loved about all of it coming together. Where like, I'm helping you not to learn how to fight. I'm helping you to defend yourself, which is the true meaning of Miyagi-Do. Is like the balance and defending yourself. And I really love that. And just that is awesome. Just how Miyagi already knows, like, yeah, you need help, but I'm gonna wait for you to like fully like admit it.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
So then going from that scene, it goes to Daniel and his mother. They're out and about. They're just having a nice wee meal. And he goes, "Cry, can I go over there for a second?" And obviously, dun, 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 we get introduced to the first ever dojo of Cobra Kai. So Daniel walks in. He's like, "Oh, hell yeah, can't wait to see how fun this karate's going to be." Then he sees Chris, and then he's starting to hear all the mottos. He's hearing what they're saying. And then he's like, "Mr. Lawrence," which, funnily enough, if you think about it, Daniel looked as shocked in the next part, which he said Mr. Lawrence. He knows Johnny's second name is Lawrence, I think.
No, I don't think so. I think this is the first
they
time
have
heard
classes
one.
together. Remember. They were like when he was avoiding Ali later on in the movie, you see them in the same class. I noticed that whilst watching it, but I didn't think about it at the time.
Really? Oh, I'm thinking. I'm thinking back because you're talking about when they were getting for the Halloween dance, right?
Yeah, like they not just there as well, but like think about it logically. If you're in a school with people, even if they had one class together, I highly doubt that they're supposed to be the same age that they never had one class together. So they would have known his second name by then.
I don't think so because again, Daniel's the new kid, and so again, this is like what the first like few week, like the first week probably.
Yeah.
Of him moving, so I wouldn't expect him to know his name right away, his last name right away.
Yeah, no, fair. That's a fair point. But if you think. Like, from what I understand, right, I can see where you're coming from, because, like, if I think back to my high school friend, like, the high school people I used to go to school with, I don't remember a lot of their second names.
I'm thinking of my experience.
Some of them I do, but, like, some of them I don't, so But because he tormented him, I'm pretty sure you would remember his name if he was in your class. So maybe that's the case. Maybe they just surprisingly never had a class together. Fair enough.
Maybe.
And so then Daniel sees Johnny and he's like, "Oh hell no! Oh no, I'm definitely not doing this." So, what is your opinion on this scene?
I like Johnny smirk when they bow and Daniel's just like this, like oh, and then you just see Johnny like doing like little like his smirk. It's like
Yeah,
oh, that's so good. I love that. And we just see like we see Cobra Kai for the first time, which is like, yo, this dojo like this is like Miyagi-Do's good, Cobra Kai's bad. We see that already. Like that's already established, but then we
yeah,
just see like Reese is like, "What's the motto? Strike first, like whatever." And just like, oh, dude, like this is intimidating. Like Kreese, and then like is like just the way he like presents himself with like him like doing this and just like, "What's our motto?" Or like him like tucking his hands with the belt is like doing this. It's just like, it's intimidating, and I really like the I just like the way that like Daniel already figures it out right away, and then in a way, you know what I mean?
yeah. So going forward on from this scene, he goes back to his mother and she's like, "Oh, so you want to go to karate then?" He's like, "Nah, ma, it sucks in there." But one of the things that I loved about the cinematography in that scene is that you see Johnny and his boys in the window figure out that he's there because of Bobby, then making up the plan for later on when his mum can't drive him home. You see him cycling on his bike, and then dun dun dun. Apparently, Daniel decided he wanted to become a cliff diver because basically he just dived off a cliff. Yeah, not necessarily a cliff, but down a hill. You know what I'm saying? All fun and games here. But the thing that I liked about that scene specifically as well is that it shows you that these people do not give a damn. Like, back then, bullying could be ferocious, and they could have killed Daniel whilst doing that, but they were all finding it fun and games. And, he falls down and he hurts himself once again. So, how did you feel about that scene going into that?
I just feel bad for Daniel because, like,
Mm,
again, like it must have sucked because you have to leave your old town. He had to leave his old girlfriend. He had to leave his old friends. He had to leave his old family. Not old family, but he had to leave his family behind to move to this town because his mom got a job. And what's the first thing you get, dude? You get bullied. And you just feel bad for Daniel because like he
yeah.
meets this girl, someone who like is actually interested in him, and someone that like and like you all fun and games, but then the bad part is what do you do when you get moved? You get bullied. And that just sucked when Daniel just right minding his own business, and then Johnny's just like, oh, he wants to learn Johnny and his like Cobra gang. They're like, oh, he wants to learn karate. Yeah, here's your first lesson, falling off a cliff or whatever the line was.
Yeah.
And just seeing Daniel like all upset, which leads to like the next scene that you're gonna talk about. It's just like you just feel bad, feel
See,
so bad.
the next scene is one of the best scenes I think as well because it's the first time you see how bad it really is getting for Daniel, and so he's walk. You see his mum pulling up into the drive, and you're like, "Oh, cool, his mum's back." And you're like, "Wait, is Daniel back yet, or is he not back yet?" And then obviously when she turns around, there's Daniel with his bike, and as a normal teenager would do after going through a traumatic experience, he has a hissy fit and throws a tantrum. He's like, "I hate this stupid bike! I hate this stupid bike!" And then you finally see the dynamic with his mum change, and she's like, "Oh my god, what happened? Are you okay?" And she's like, "Yeah, ma, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine." And then eventually he stops and goes, "Why did we have to move here? Why? Why could we not have stayed back home? I want to go home. I want to go home." And it's such a heartbreaking scene, especially if you feel for Daniel or you've been in a similar situation, because he's physically having a mental breakdown because he just can't handle the fact that no matter what he does to try to make himself feel safe and to actually enjoy his time living here, no one's allowing him to do it. Like, he's just having a hard time. The only one that's even trying to is Ali, but because of his own ego, he keeps pushing her away in a lot of the time, and you'll see that going forward even through more of the movie as well, where he just feels his ego gets damaged or his ego is a bit more inflated, so he ends up acting like, well, just like anybody would. And obviously, at the end of this part, Mr. Miyagi pops out, and you see the cogs turning. You know what's going to go on from next on. So, what about you?
First of all, I think that scene was very well acted by
Mhm.
both Ralph Macchio and I forgot her name. Her name literally slipped my mind. The woman who plays the seal, Daniel's
Mhm.
mom.
I
It
can't
was like
remember the.
it was like I think it was I forgot her name, unfortunately. But I think that scene was very well acted between the both of them because like it was a true like okay like Daniel's like what do you want to hear ma like we moved like they didn't even think about me whatever the line was like what do you want to hear ma
Mm.
I just like that scene was just like you said now everything's going down now Daniel's mom knows how bad her son is getting bullied and then
Yeah.
like Miyagi pops up and again we'll see later on where like Miyagi pops up and he what does he do fix the bike we see that
Yeah.
later on though.
So yeah, going on from that scene, we're not going to go through scenes anymore. What we're going to do is start talking about more parts that we liked. So one for me, a specific part that I really, 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 really love was the back and forth with Daniel and Ali when it came to in the lunch hall. You know, this is when they're starting to become more serious. They're starting ready to start to date and things like that. And I really liked that because for me, it was funny to see that Daniel finally was like, you know what? No, I'll give it a chance. You know, this girl seems like you know, because for the lot of this movie, like they had that back and forth, but at times he just didn't trust her and things. And I could see why Ali would get annoyed at him because sometimes it wasn't justified why he was annoyed at her. But it's the same later on as well with her with him. So I can understand what they're doing, but it's just teenage love stuff. Another one of my favorite scenes is, of course, when Mr. Miyagi is sat there hammered out of his head and we finally figure out why he's alone and why he does what he does and why he is who he is. You know, we find out about his son and his wife, and it gives such more of a weight to the Miyagi and Daniel storyline. It breaks your heart, and obviously, if you know the behind the scenes stuff as well as we do, you know it's quite sad because the actor actually had issues with being. I can't really say it because of YouTube guidelines, but thanks YouTube. You know,
Person that enjoys
drinking.
yeah a person that enjoys like drinking apple juice a lot.
Yeah, a lot and a lot of apple juice. How about yourself?
So again one of my favorite scenes was that Miyagi scene again like like we said behind the scenes stuff studio gets involved and they
Mhm.
want to cut that scene out
Yeah,
and I'm happy that they fought for that scene because again reasons why people thought that the scene would get cut out is because it thought it slowed the movie down which it actually didn't it actually
Mhm.
built it up and we got to learn more on who Mr. Miyagi is which is
yeah.
very important because before that we just really didn't know who Miyagi was we just knew that he was just a maintenance
He was a
this
nice
we knew
guy.
he was a nice maintenance guy and so we just knew about that we didn't know and we knew like where he was from Okinawa from Japan he learned from his father but like we got to learn more that he was in war he had a wife he had kids but they died unfortunately like they died to like an accident and whatever and it's just sad and to know that they fought for this scene was incredible and I
Mm.
really liked it I think this scene actually got Pat Moreno like an Oscar nomination or something like that
Yeah.
so props to that scene. Another one of my all-time favorite scenes in this movie is when it was the scene where Mr. Miyagi and Daniel were on the boat on the canoe
Yeah.
thing and Daniel's like where am I going to learn how to punch Miyagi's like or he says like he's like he's like or Miyagi's like that's what you think karate is about yeah and Daniel's like yeah you train to fight you learn how to fight he's like you sure about that and then that scene right there that moment where you just see on Daniel's face the realization why he learns karate is because he doesn't have to fight to
Mhm.
defend himself. And that's what I think a lot of people, why people go into karate now is they, oh, I want to go to karate, learn how to fight. Actually, no, you learn that stuff to defend yourself. And I think that's like a really good lesson to say, like, oh, yeah, karate's not fighting. Karate is basically there just to defend yourself if in case you get, you
Yeah.
have problems. And that's like, again, that's like one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah.
And another, and this scene right here I'm going to talk about is by far my all time favorite scene in the movie. It is where Mr. Miyagi gives Daniel a car for his
Mhm.
birthday. Because if you saw before, when Daniel was learning wax on, wax off, you see the scene where Daniel's just looking at the car. He's like, dang, this car is nice. And you see Miyagi's face start to smile,
Yep.
which is a foreshadowing to the scene that I'm talking about right now. Because this scene right here, not only is my all time favorite scene, it has so many it has a great lesson in that movie where it says balance, it's not just for karate, it's for life. And
Yep.
I love that scene so much because it's so true. Because in life, you have to balance so many things. And that is just a great reminder to everyone that, yeah, you don't need just balance in karate to learn how to kick
Mm.
or punch. You need balance to in your life. balance things out, and I really, really love that scene. And it's well acted by Pat Morita and Ralph Macchio, and it
Yeah.
also gives the dynamic between the father and the son between Daniel and Miyagi, and I love it.
Yeah. Also, I love that car scene as well because, funnily enough, you see that.
Hey, Banzai!
Love
For
that.
me, there's a few other scenes that are my favorite as well, which is like ones where like him and Ali, Daniel and Ali at the school dance, where you finally see that yes, Johnny was right. He was just sitting minding his own business when he got doused with the hose. So yes, Mr. Johnny Lawrence, for the first time in a long time, yes, we agree. Daniel should have left it. But at the same point, I understand where he was coming from, but one of Mr. Miyagi's most important lessons is you shouldn't take revenge on people. So there you go. Another one of my favorite scenes as well is when they go to golf and stuff, because it's such a beautiful scene, you know, like it's their nice first wee date, you know, they have the awkward interaction with the parents meetings and things, and obviously it's quite funny because you can clearly tell they're snobby. They're like, I do not like this Daniel boy because, you know, he's not rich, you know, he's not from money, and it's like, you know a few people like that in real life, so you know it's realistically a realistic stereotype.
That's a great scene too, because you see the kind of person that Ali is too.
Yes,
That's
that
what I
she
really like too.
was constantly coming to his defense and saying, no, he's a great guy, he's a good guy. And obviously, unfortunately, even in today's society, it doesn't matter if you're a good guy or a decent guy. If you're not the rich guy or the cool guy, don't matter. It's harder for you to go out and actually meet girls. So that's why Ali's a keeper. If it wasn't a high school relationship, they totally would have ended up together, but obviously it's a high school relationship, so it was doomed to end from the start. But unfortunately, that's just movie tropes. So blame movie tropes for that and not us, because it wasn't their fault. Also, one of my actual favorite scenes, now that we're getting more closer to the end of things and stuff, is obviously when it comes to Mr. Miyagi lying to the man at the start of the door. You know, he's like, oh, he's a black belt. He's like, yeah, but whilst he's distracting the guy, he's getting Ali stealing a black belt out of a bag, and you're just like, Mr. Miyagi is a straight up G, man. Like, he's just a straight up G.
Why you mentioned that? I love that there's one scene where Daniel, Miyagi, and Ali are going into the tournament, and the ref is like, no, you can't be here. Only senseis and students. And Daniel's like, oh no, like he's my translator. She's gonna translate what he says to me. And then Miyagi says like something in Japanese, and the ref's like, what? And the Ali's like, oh, you remind me of an uncle in Tokyo. Oh, arigato, whatever he says. And Miyagi's like, you're welcome. And they just move away.
And you see the referee like what?
I love that scene.
I love that scene too. But we're going to start to end off here now. Yeah, I know. There might be scenes that we might have missed, or like there's certain things that we never really spoke about. But let's be honest, not all of them are very detrimental. Like, we're talking about parts that we all like, and then we were going scene from scene, and we don't want it
Obviously, the crane
overrunning. Yes, exactly.
Oh, and the that scene.
Yeah.
That was great.
Doctor.
Medic.
See, that's the thing. Like, when it comes to this movie, overall, it's just a solid movie. For me, it's a solid 9 out of 10 because the storyline between Daniel and Mr. Miyagi is such a heartwarming, tender love story of a father and son that didn't have a father, you know, didn't have a son, and they found it in one another. It's a nice love story between him and Ali, you know, having to deal with these bullies always attacking them and always having to deal with these horrible, horrible things that no one wants to go through. And then, as well as that, it's also a story about sticking up for yourself and doing what's right. And one of the things that I noticed that I don't think a lot of people noticed is during that fly scene, it makes more sense now why he wins at the end. Because everybody's like, logically speaking, you're like, Johnny's got so much more experience, he would win. No, because they planted the seed in that very moment, like how Cobra Kai does it. And now I see where the hell they got the idea from. Because Mr. Miyagi goes, if you can catch this, you can do anything. And who's the one person to catch it? It's motherfucking Daniel. I don't care if I swear. It's well more than it's well into the video. So if you try to do anything, I don't care. I don't get monetized anyway. So, so yeah, what are your thoughts ending off, and what would you give it as a score?
As a score, I mean, to me, this is not just one of my favorite movies because I have a Cobra Kai channel, just because I like Cobra Kai and Karate Kid. It's not the reason why it's one of my favorite movies. It's one of my favorite movies because it's just a good movie, you know? Even
Yeah.
if Cobra Kai wasn't a show, if Cobra Kai wasn't a thing, I would still like this movie a lot because it does something that a lot of movies don't really have a lot, especially today's age, where it has a lot of, doesn't have a lot of heart, and it's
Mhm.
just a simple story for a movie that's called The Karate Kid. There's not a lot of karate because
Yeah.
but that's the main part of the movie, though. The main part of the movie is Daniel going on his journey, seeing where he needs help, seeing how he learns karate, seeing his problems, his relationships between not just his, but not just with Mr. Miyagi, but with Ali, his mom, his
Mhm.
relationship with Johnny, kind of at the end. And it's just like it all turns out at the end, even though Cobra Kai happens, but it doesn't turn out like where Johnny says, "You're all right, LaRusso." Although Cobra Kai happens, and even though now they're tight, but
Yeah, like they kind of feel retconned a few things in there, but that's all good.
but that's okay. But as a movie, it's just so good, and the pacing is really well.
Oh
When
yeah.
when I was watching it, I didn't realize we were an hour in the movie already. That's how
Mhm.
good the pacing is because it's not too slow. It doesn't drag out anything. It's just okay. Here's the scene. Okay, we're going to the next scene, and the transitions where
Yeah.
it's just really good too. It's just something simple. It's not like boom, 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 boom. It's just like something simple. We're just following along Daniel's journey, and I like that. I really like that in a movie. Again, I always say if a movie can make me laugh and like entertained, if it makes me cry or makes it like a lot of stuff or makes me feel emotional, I think it's a good movie in my opinion.
Yeah.
I'm not like a movie critic or whatever, but I when I look at movies, I'm saying, okay, these are the things. If I'm entertained by it, if I like it, I enjoy it. And
Yeah.
so Karate Kid's one of those movies, and I really like it a lot.
Yeah.
So
See, for me,
it's a
I
9 out of
understand what
10.
you're saying. I do understand what you're saying because I'm going to put this out there, and yeah, if you think this applies to you, then it probably does. Can everybody stop being a movie critic? Like, shut up. Like, we get it. Like, yes, I know that you like to dissect everything, right? But remember, a movie's escapism. It's not, oh my god, the CGI is so bad. Oh my god, because there's certain scenes in this movie I know fine well that if a newer person from this day and age would watch it, be like, that is not good. That is very bad and promotes a bad thing. And it's like, chill out.
There's a scene in the movies in the tournament. If you see it again, I forgot to mention this, but there's a scene in the movie where Johnny and Daniel are fighting. Clearly, you don't see Johnny actually punching Daniel. You clearly
Yeah.
see, you clearly do this. You clearly see that, but I don't care. It's just a movie, guys. Like it's not real
Exactly.
life.
So chill the hell out. But anyway, I hope you have enjoyed this video, and thanks to my special guest All Valley for joining me on this.
Thank
And-
you so much for having me.
Not a problem. Also, this is where, yes, I say it every video because you know how much I fucking hate doing this. If you like the video, give it a like, hit the subscribe button, and come back for more. I know I should want to have more viewers, I do, but I don't like the fact that I have to do this just because YouTube goes, this helps you in the algorithm. I don't care. I shouldn't have to do this. But anyway, I have been Ken and Wolf. That has been All Valley, and I shall see you guys in the next video.
See you.